Hi, my name is Miceli, and I am inspired by life and creation itself.
All right, and welcome to the Lantern Podcast out of Good Cause Productions at the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay. This show is produced and promoted by students right here at UWGB, and I'm your host, Ryan Martin. We have a great guest for you today. She's the founder and CEO of the Bold Marketing Agency here in Green Bay, Wisconsin, which provides personal and professional branding services and creates intentional gatherings designed to ignite human connection. She was just named Young Entrepreneur of the Year by the Greater Green Bay Chamber. Please welcome Amanda Miceli.
I think every single thing about life and human beings and just us existing and nature is all a creation of something. We really all have our own interpretation of what that is in our own unique ways, which I think is really beautiful. But I always say that the only thing that is really real is that we all have our own perspective, like our own perspective of what reality that we have is what we have, and we get to create whatever we would like from there. And I think that's a really beautiful thing to be able to do in life and embark on with other people.
So how is that worldview inspired, do you think, your journey and who you are and what you've created and all that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely given me the space to really just be bold on the pursuit of what sets my soul on fire and really not think about, I was filling out a grant application last night and I was like, I've never really had the thoughts in my head of like, well, what if I can't do this? Or, well, what are people going to think? Or this isn't an option. If my mind has an idea that is, a creative download that I get to receive, then I believe I get to act on that, and what a beautiful thing that I get to do. So I think it's really set the path for me to just really be able to really act on whatever ideas that I do have come to life, and also help people do the same thing. When other people ask me or are talking about dreams that they have, I'm like, okay, well, why not? Let's do it. I'll help you do it right now.
Right.
Let's do it. And I'm just a firm believer that we should all act on our dreams and what we have come into our minds, because otherwise it's just going to be things that we keep thinking about down the road. So we might as well create it now.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about what you've created.
Yes.
So I mentioned this during the intro, but you were selected as Young Entrepreneur of the Year by the Greater Green Bay Chamber of Commerce just about a week ago.
Yep.
So let's talk about the business. First of all, tell people about it, and then I want to hear the backstory about how we got there.
Yes, awesome. So we are our Bold brand, but we are the Bold Marketing Agency, Bold Events, and Ask Bold Questions, where we ignite human connection through authentic branding and intentional gatherings.
Okay.
Yep.
So where did this start? How did this come to be?
Yes. So I have always been an artist, just a very creative individual, and I always really thought that that was the path that I wanted to go down and sell my art. And I'm really glad that I chose not to do that, because now my art is just my art. I get to create it. It turns my brain off. It's just for me and not to put food on the table. But I went to school for business, and in my first marketing class, I was like, oh, okay, this is it. This is definitely the way that I get to be really creative and really strategic at the same time, and actually support businesses to continue to grow and have people create their dreams that they're wanting to bring to life. So I actually created a position at the job that I did have since like high school through college, and created a marketing manager role for me. And then I continued to do that remote. After I graduated college, I moved down to Naples, Florida for about 2 years. And while I was down there, then I, always knew I wanted to start a business. So I was still doing freelance marketing for the company that I was working remote, but then also just picking up kind of freelance clients here and there. And then I was like, I really want to start a clothing company. I make my own clothes and I absolutely love designing. And then I've had a lot of moments in my life where future me kind of taps me on the shoulder and is like, is this a good idea? And I had one of those, and it was like, where are you going to put these clothes in your tiny little apartment? How are you going to pay for these clothes? And I was like, this is a dream that I can do later on. I can create this my own way, and I have, which is really cool now. But I said to myself, why don't I just take my own advice I give all these clients and market myself? So it was April of 2022 that I really had the idea. And I remember sitting in my 1-bedroom apartment in my bed, making, sketching out names. What could it be? And I landed on the Bold Marketing Agency, feeling really aligned to that bold energy of who I am. And then June of 2022 is when I officially launched it. And then a few months later, I went through Hurricane Ian while I was down in Florida. And it's one of those moments in life where you're just like, life can be short. I think I'm going to head back home for the summer and just spend some time with my family. And when I did that, I was like, okay, I'm going to head back to Florida around October time. And when that time came, I just really took a reflection of like, well, why? I really love being around my family. We're very an Italian family-oriented family, and I love all 4 seasons now, which people think I'm crazy for, but I
Not
wouldn't.
me. Not
right?
me. Yeah, no, I love it too.
Right,
Yeah.
like the changes of it, I just wouldn't have it any other way now. And then I really, really fell in love with the business atmosphere here. Everything about the business culture here, it is authentic, it is innovative, it is curious, it's open-minded, and truly a space where we get to all create together. And I really recognized that there was a gap in the market for what we did. We're a team of all women under 30. And while there are a bunch of amazing marketing agencies here, they all have their own unique superpowers, and they've been here for 10, 15 years. So they do things differently than what we do. And I recognize that we were able to bring a new way of the way brands are being created nowadays, and also saw a space where a lot of events don't necessarily happen here. I've traveled across the country and gone to the most incredible different events, and we didn't really have a lot of those happening here at the time when I moved back. And it's really cool now to see how it has bloomed in a bunch of different ways. But our first event that we did when we came back was our Bold Fashion Show. And it was our first one, which now we are planning our third one. And it is actually our business's birthday party.
Okay.
It's like the most over-the-top business birthday party ever. But we would not have it any other way. But I think the most beautiful thing about the fashion show, and I reflect on it a lot, especially now that we see the ripple effect of what it's created, is that it's a community space that has ignited people connecting with each other for relationships that continue on and on, but also a space to allow people to be bold. People are like, oh, can anyone walk the runway or be a model? I'm like, if you have enough courage to go walk on a runway, yeah, get up there and do it. Or I'm going to encourage anyone who's even slightly curious about it, or a designer to be able to showcase their art. We don't have a huge fashion scene here either. So being able to create that space, and for myself, I really created a way that I got to be my fashion designer and create that clothing line like I always wanted to for myself, which I think is really cool as well. But we continued to just do a bunch of different events in the area, like ladies' cigar nights or branding workshops, things like that. And continue on, and really unique networking events as well. So that's where we created the Bold event side of the business. And then the third extension of the business, called Ask Bold Questions, sprouted actually from a Bold event, which we had all of our guests come, and they were given random numbers on their name tag, and they were split up at random tables, and they were at the table. We had a bunch of random questions in a deck that really were just deeper questions than what you typically talk about at a networking event. And as I walked around, people were just sharing the most beautiful stories, and they were laughing and they were crying, and it was like people they'd never met before. And then when we said, game time's done, you guys can head on home, stay for a drink, whatever you want, literally no one got up. Everyone just kept playing for 20 minutes. And I'd never seen anything like that. And the way people came up to me after, or texted us after, and said, that was incredible. I'd never had conversations like that with people. And now they're still connected with these people to this day. And then we, really saw this might be bigger than us. This might be something bigger than what we thought it was. And I always say, it was not on my bingo card to make a card game in my life, but it was one of those things that like it was presented before us that truly showcased over and over again that it really does ignite that human connection. Our whole mission of igniting that human connection. So yeah, now we are creating an actual physical card game that is all for professional and community gatherings to really be able to ask those intentional questions that dig a little bit deeper and have that human connection. So we are in the production stages of making that as well. Yeah. So
amazing.
That
That's
leads us
amazing.
here.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about that because, right, I mean, it's no secret that I feel like human connection has been, I think many would argue, sort of dwindling in the last, 6 to 10 years, right? And some of it post-COVID, but some of it in advance of that. We have a quote-unquote loneliness epidemic that there's a lot to say about.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know, like, what's it like having this as sort of a core central value of what you do? And so what's it like to be in that space?
Yeah, I think it was very naturally put there for me in this world, in the space of like, I'm like a very welcoming, I'm Italian, like I said, so it's very much like that. We welcome everyone at the dinner table, and we're going to talk about life. We're going to be honest. We're going to keep it real. We're not going to sugarcoat shit. Like, we are talking about real life, and that's what is the beautiful thing. So like, I've always grown up being able to have conversations. Like I'm also a younger sibling, and I've started to recognize how like older siblings close in a lot more and younger siblings are a lot more open, I feel like. And I've just always, I wear my heart on my sleeve. People have been telling it to me since I was a child. Like, it just always seems weird to me why people don't talk about it, like that was always how I felt. Like, what do you mean, why aren't we going to talk about how I'm feeling or how you're feeling or what's going on? And so it always came natural. And then obviously as I grew older, I started to recognize why other people don't talk about things and why it's not that way for a lot of people. But I really recognized, hey, that is the space that like, how can I remove every barrier, every anxious feeling that someone could be feeling? How can I make it the most comfortable setting from them before they even leave their house to drive at an event or showing up to one of our workshops? How can I prepare them for literally everything that their anxious mind is thinking of? How can I ease that for them? How can I release that and not have that be something that they're sitting there thinking about over and over again, and create that really welcoming space for them to feel comfortable to come and do something that makes them feel very anxious and step outside of their comfort zone. And then when they're there, it's like, oh, what was I worried about? That was so beautiful. And then they keep coming back,
So I've got 2 questions for you. I'm trying to decide which direction I want to go. Okay, so I'm going to hold off on one about connection. I'm going to come back to something else because so far as we've been talking about this, and including sort of before we started recording, you were talking about spending time in nature. And then when you were talking about your art, you talked about how it quiets your mind. And then now I hear you kind of talking about how you can help other people quiet their mind. It feels like this is a pretty important value for you, the importance of a quiet mind.
Yeah.
Is that something you've paid attention to? Is that something you're intentional about?
So that's really interesting that you do say that, because now that you say it out loud, I'm like, yeah, actually that is something, but I think I never maybe like consciously said. I think the way I would always intentionally put it for myself was like speaking to myself, like having conversation with myself and being with myself. That has always been something I've been very intentional about. And now that you put it into the perspective of like, yeah, quieting my mind, that really is like what I'm doing with it as well. And yeah, just, I think, again, going back to the creation of things, that how we started all of this, like, you have to be bored to create. And by bored, I don't just mean like, you're sitting there like, oh my God, what am I going to do next? But really just sit there and exist and not feel like I have to run to the next thing, and just be so present in that moment. Because again, back to perspectives, reality, the only thing we have is a present moment. Like the past is what it is, the future will be, but right now, this is the current state and reality of what we have, and how I get to use that with other people or myself, I think makes a big difference in how I create. And being able to, be in that space of like, I'm not thinking of the 10 million things that we have going on in the business, or, I mean, I think I always am at some point, but, but that's part of my creation as well, that like me going and quieting my mind, makes it so that it has the space to bring in new creative ideas and things that we get to either build upon what we were doing or create something new. But really, yeah, like being able to meditate, journal, and be in nature and be by myself and ask myself questions and understand like what's coming up for me allows, if, you know, I am a firm believer that when we better understand ourselves, we better understand every single person around us. And that's how I know I get to create that space for people and realize like, oh, you're probably going to think of this. You're going to be thinking of that. You're going to be anxious about this. These are things, and asking people those questions too of like, what makes you feel those ways? Getting to understand that to create that space.
Right. So let's talk about connection a little bit more. When you talk about connections, I'm curious about the people you've been connected to that have really served as mentors and inspired you along the way.
Yes, I definitely am so blessed to have so many, and I learn everything from any person I ever meet, which I think is awesome. But my number one mentor, who has literally helped me in so many ways, he actually was an old teacher of mine at NWTC. He was our DECA advisor, who he actually I judged at state DECA last week for college, and it was his last state that he was an advisor for. So we got to celebrate his retirement on that. His name is Jerry Lintz, and he, has been in the business world in Green Bay for a very long time, hospitality, restaurant management, things like that. And he picks up every time. Every time I need something, or in the moments where I've been crying on my knees and have no idea where to turn, how to figure it out in the business, I've called him, and he always helps me find a solution, whether it's him helping it himself or connecting me with the right who or giving me a book or the right thing to turn to. And I think having someone like that is, I don't always know if everyone has someone like that, especially that's not like your family or a friend or your partner, but to be able to have a mentor that always picks up and he's in his 70s and he's so wise and so strong and has helped me build that resilience within myself.
Yeah, that is a message that I have for so many students who might be listening right now, is the importance of staying connected to those mentors, that those are people who can continue to help you well after you've graduated and continue to be there for you. Yeah,
and also, like, I think sometimes you don't recognize as the mentee. Is that the right word? Or apprentice, maybe?
Either way.
Like, you don't realize sometimes you think like, oh, I might be a burden, or, oh, I don't want to bug them with too much. But like, someone has asked me to be their mentor. And when they said that to me and they asked me, will you be my mentor? After that day, I have stuck with them, whether they've stuck with me 100%. That, like, I'm always here watching your journey. I'm always here supporting your journey. I'm always here to check in on your journey. And I am always here to support you no matter where you are at, because you asked me to be your mentor. And that is a role that I hold very highly. And if you ask that of me, that's how I show up. And that's how your mentor as well is showing up for you when you don't necessarily realize that as the mentee too.
So what is next for, I guess to back up, what do you love about running your own business?
Oh gosh. Oh, that feels like such a loaded question, because literally everything, I feel like when I won the award, as I was reflecting after a few days, I'm like, I really won an award for running my business and doing what I love every day. How cool is that? Like, that is so beautiful. But I think it's evolved in a lot of ways, because like when it first started, it was the creation of everything, just like, oh, I get to create this, I get to make that, and I get to think of these new ideas and what can I do next? Where now it's more of, I get to invest in being a leader myself, and I get to lead and personally and professionally grow with my team. Always with my team. Like, we're all helping each other grow together, and being able to be that leader and lead our mission of igniting human connection, and having a team along the way that, like, we are a very transparent company. We do things very abstractly. We're very different than what you would typically think for a company. And being able to create that space for other young professionals to be able to grow in their career, whether they're with me forever or they're with me for a short period of time, I think is one of the coolest things about it. And then just also still the creation, but now at like a little bit more of a creative director level of creation, where I get to really just think of really cool ideas And it's so fun how I get to just be like, okay, I have this idea, let's make it happen. And then everyone with their own unique superpowers is like, okay, let's go do it. And then we make it, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to sort of what's next for you and for the business, what are the things you're hoping happen?
Yeah. I love this question because it's evolved and changed in many ways, but definitely the card deck. Like when I think of the card deck, I get butterflies and I get really excited, and it feels like this kind of divine intervention of like, again, it's something bigger than us, and it feels like it's going to be really big. And I didn't necessarily always have that with the agency, because when I created the agency, and still to this day, it's not about quantity for the agency, it's about quality of how can we really impactfully do that for people or brands. And I don't need to serve the whole country for that, but a card game can be everywhere. Everyone can access a card game. Everyone can go buy a $30 card game off the shelf and go intentionally ask those things. And that can show up across the world and quantitatively actually make a difference. And that feels big. That feels like we're creating a brand that's really going to turn into something much bigger than us. So definitely the card game. But then within the actual agency, last year, towards the end of the year, we started creating mastermind spaces as well for people, where we actually help people go through their personal and company brand journeys. Because like for me, personal branding is my favorite. And it is this space of, how can we combine who we are professionally and who we are personally and create this person to show up in every single room. Like that's what your personal brand is. I think sometimes people think, oh, it's this professional person that I have to put on this hat and like go do this. But it's you. It's you showing up in every single room. It's you being your most authentic self. But when you found a company, sometimes it's difficult to, you attach yourself to that identity. You are your company, and you don't know how to think outside of like, I'm just my company and this is what exists. Where when we can start to kind of be the umbrella of I'm the business owner of all of this and my company is an extension of me, we can really start to make that big impact. And I love being able to work through that actually with clients, and that's what the mastermind space creates, instead of like us just doing it for you. I'd rather work through the steps with you all day long.
This is something, the personal brand piece is something I've actually been talking to my kids about, because one of the things I like about that, just philosophically and just sort of developmentally, is it in some ways it's aspirational, right? It's like, okay, who do you as a athlete, as a dancer, as a student, who do you want to be?
Yes.
And then you can actually use that to inform life decisions you make. Like, what if my goal is to be a competitive athlete? Well, then what does a competitive athlete do in this situation, right? Do they stay at home and sit on the couch and watch TV, or do they go hit the gym, right? Do they go practice? And so I think that there's a way in which that personal brand can really be like, can influence your growth in a really meaningful way.
100%. The number one thing we always start off with is creating your personal mission statement, because that is going to be that deciding factor. We always call it your North Bold Star, that thing that, hey, what is the decision that I make in this? If it's aligned with my personal mission statement, great, we're doing it. If it doesn't, get out of here. Yeah.
So tell me quick about the game.
Yes.
How does it work?
Yes. So
I'm asking for because I'm going to have an ask here in a second. But keep going. Yeah.
I'm excited. Well, I am not a huge rule person. So when you open the card game, you're not necessarily going to be told rules, and I will say that I do handwritten notes. I'm a very like analog person. I write all of my people. My support system, thank you cards, but even just like whenever we have events, every single person that attended that event is walking out with a handwritten card from me, because it's my space that I get to stay grateful then and always be grateful for every single person that's coming into that room, but then they get to as well take that with them, and there's always a gift with it that reminds them of what we all created together that evening. So I'm going to I have a handwritten thank you card and like a little thing that will say, hey, there's not really rules here necessarily, but what we would advise that we've found that works well is like there are many ways that you can play it, but if you're doing it in like a networking setting, splitting people up randomly works really well where they don't, again, how can we alleviate that anxious decision? Don't let them make the decision to go sit somewhere because they're going to go sit by their friends.
Right.
Split them up. If everyone is facilitated and having to go somewhere else, everyone, then it's not weird. You're weird if you're the person who doesn't want to go do it. So then you go do that. And then have the card game there. And then we always just say, have one person read it, and everyone goes around and answers it, including the person who did read it, and then get through as many cards as you have space for, you know? But everyone gets to share a story and tell from there. But then if you're playing it at home, put the card deck out and play how you want. But just ask questions.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So here's the ask. I think you should come back and play it on the show at some point. So
I'm in.
Yeah,
and we make custom decks, so we can create an
cool.
actual custom one too that is all for, hey, what are the conversations that we want to be having, whether it's here or at a dinner or whatever it might be. But hey, I'm in.
Yeah, excellent.
Twist
so
my arm.
we'll bring a couple of people, so it'll be more than just you and I.
That'd be awesome.
We'll get someone else, and
I would love that.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yes.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right, it's time for our 3 questions.
Okay.
Are you ready? So you got these in advance, so you know what you're about to be asked. Who is it that you hope you are inspiring?
I would say the child in everyone. Like we all are, you know, we're that creation, that inspiration, that state of being able to just have your mind rest and not think about what's next. You know, children have such a beautiful life of just like, yeah, mom's gonna take me here, I'm gonna get my dinner here. And obviously we don't have that anymore, but I think that that's a very beautiful thing. We get to create that ourselves again. But really that space of that child in everyone exists, and that kid that didn't think about what mattered and didn't think about what other people thought and just created and acted on whatever came into their mind. I hope I'm inspiring that person and everyone.
Love it.
Yeah.
Question 2, what is a book, a movie, a TV show, a work of art, something that inspired you or transformed you in some way?
Yeah, I would say book-wise, a book called E Squared by Pam Groot. It's all about how we can utilize our minds, how powerful our minds are, and that it takes you through 9 different experiments that you do over, coursed out X amount of time. Some of them are scheduled, some of them are not, but it was the first time. I was 19 when I read the book, and I was just like, wow, it really showed me how powerful one's mind is and set me up for that space to be able to continue to create all those things myself. And a movie, I'd say Inception.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Last question. What's a piece of advice that you would give someone who still hasn't found their way?
I would definitely say on brand of what we talked about today, sit with yourself. Sit and talk to yourself. Ask yourself questions. Journal on them. Speak them out loud if you want. Speak them in your head, whatever you want to. But really just sit with yourself and who you are and what's in your mind and what's around you. As I'm reading the book The Alchemist right now, and this morning when I was reading it, it was talking about, the people who are following that journey of who they are and continue to find those things will find inspiration in a grain of sand. That because it's something that was created, and all of the things around us we can find that inspiration in and whatnot. But sit with yourself and just observe what you have going on, what the world has going on, and just take it from kind of that bird's eye view.
Love it.
Yeah.
So is there anything that I haven't asked that I should have? Anything else we should talk about that you want to tell people about?
Gosh, I feel like I could think of 10 million things. I'm definitely a yapper and could yap for 10 years. But I guess I would just say overall of just what we're creating. But maybe just the fashion show. We've got our 3rd annual Bold Fashion Show coming up on June 19th.
Excellent. And
that will actually be at LiveX, who has also provided this awesome studio.
Yeah.
So shout out to LiveX.
Very cool.
But yeah, we're very excited for our 3rd year to create that.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Yeah.
We love LiveX.
don't we? I agree.
Yeah, Corey is.
He is a character. I love him so much.
He's fantastic. Corey has been a really good friend to me, but also just a really good advisor to the college, and
I love it.
helped build this space. And just in general, great guy. And
he is amazing.
Yeah, we took a bunch of students over to LiveX for a
cool.
tour.
Isn't it such a cool space?
It's a great space. Yeah.
My sister's actually never been there, and actually after this, we're going and touring, and she finally gets to see it. And I'm like, Allison,
awesome.
You're gonna love it. It's insane. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, it's really good. No, he's fantastic. LiveX is great. So, very cool. Where can people find out more about you, about your work, about your agency, all of that?
Yep. So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, websites. For my personal brand, it's all Commanda in Chief, and Chief is spelt wrong. Actually, it is spelt CHEIF. It's intentional. That's a whole nother story. But
Wait, so you're not going to tell us the story?
Oh, if we've got time, I'll do it.
No, I'd love to hear.
Okay, so Command in Chief is spelt wrong. So when I first found out the name, I was like sent an Instagram post from this guy that comes up with funny nicknames for your friend named blank.
Oh, I know that guy.
Yeah, Paul something, and all of my friends sent me years back Amanda, and Command in Chief was one of them, and I was like, oh. That's great, actually, because I can be intense. I can be demanding. Those were words that people would describe me as always since I was young. And I used to be kind of embarrassed of it. But then I'm like, actually, I found a tactful way of doing all the things. But yeah, I can be an intense Italian woman who tells you what's up. And I was like, this is perfect. And I always knew that I wanted my personal brand to have another name other than just, like, I wanted a nickname a little bit more than just my own. Because one day when I get married, I want to be able to have that space that it's not just my name. And so I changed my Instagram name to it, and then everyone was loving it, and I was like, oh, this is good. I found it, and I have a friend like 2 weeks later that messages me. She's like, you spelled your name wrong on Instagram, and I'm like, no, I didn't. No way. And yeah, I did. And I was like, that's fine. I'll just go change it. Well, it was way too easy to get in the first place, and that was why, because the real spelling was taken.
Gotcha.
And in that moment, I had two choices. I could either go back to how it was, pretend like I did not just create an awesome brand name for myself that everyone loved, or I own it and stand for what I believe in, because two things with it. Number one, I'm a terrible speller. I actually think if I got tested for being dyslexic, I genuinely think I would be. I mess up I's and E's all the time. So I get to tell people right then and there, I'm not a good speller. You're probably going to see spelling errors on my posts, and I'm okay with it. Number two, I don't believe in perfect. I don't use the word perfect. I don't think anything is perfect. I think that it is life, and we are all figuring out. We're going to mess up. We're going to have abstract things are going to fly here, fly there, just like Bob Ross says, happy little accidents. Like, I'm a firm believer in that, and me being able to have my name spelt wrong gives me that space to tell that story and stand for what I believe in.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That is very cool. Okay.
Yeah,
Because I did notice that, and I wondered about it. So,
yeah.
All right. So back to just to make sure everybody gets your socials.
Yes.
So
So Commanda in Chief for all of my personal brand, but then for the company, the Bold Marketing Agency, Bold Events, and Ask Bold Questions, they are all three separate platforms, but you can find them Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or websites for all of them. So
fantastic.
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. This
Thank
has been
you.
great.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
All right, I'm here with Rachel Sankey. Rachel, you know our guest today. You introduced me to Amanda, so tell me how you know Amanda.
Yes, Amanda and I used to work together, actually.
Really?
When we were both at the Business News, we had met and quickly became friends, and I was a part of her very first fashion show to celebrate the Bold Marketing Agency's birthday, and I'm now in the first cohort for the Bold Builder Mentorship program that she has.
Okay, tell me more about that thing. The
Yes.
second thing. We talked about the fashion show in the episode, but now I want to know more about this.
Yes, so the cohort that I'm in is made up of a bunch of small business owners and entrepreneurs who are looking to grow in their personal and professional brand. So I run a small pottery business and a small kind of thrifting business to coincide. And so Amanda has been helping me alongside a few other women kind of hone in on what our brand is and how that will propel not only like our businesses forward, but what does our personal brand mean to us and how do we show up as our most like authentic selves every day.
Excellent. That's very cool. So tell me, Give me one thing you've kind of learned or taken from it so far. Putting you on the spot.
She just asked us this question in the Slack channel we have, and I had said the thing that I have learned the most is being consistent. So not even necessarily in like consistent with posting with socials, which of course is important, but being consistent with like my brand identity and personality. So like I got a comment from someone, it was a nice comment, and I was trying to think of how to respond, and I had typed out a response, and then I kind of was like, wait, does this reflect my brand? And then I deleted it, and then I wrote something that felt like it better fit like my imaging, my brand, my mission. So being consistent in that way is probably the biggest thing I've learned.
Excellent. I love that.
Thanks.
All right. Why are you laughing at me?
I love that.
I do love that. So
Yes, me too.
no, that's great. So all right, now is the time where we tell people where they can find out more about the show, all that stuff. And you know what? Let's talk about your pottery business. Where can people find out more about that?
Oh, yes. And I recently did a rebrand too. So if you check out my page, you'll get to see my new logo and everything. So you can find me on Instagram at Sillybird Studio. So Sillybird_studio. Post my pottery journey on there. I also post my thrift finds. So yeah, right now I'm kind of primarily on Instagram.
Outstanding. All right. And people can also check out your work currently. As people know, not going to be here in the future. You're finishing up. You're like a week away from your last day. But people can check out your work at UWGB Cause. That's UWGBCAHSS. And they can also follow me at Anger Professor on all the socials. All right. Are you ready to take us home?
Never been more ready in my life. The Lantern is brought to you by Good Cause Productions at the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. The executive producer is Ryan Martin, and the production manager is me, Rachel Sankey. The engineer for today's episode is Kennedy Punky, with support from Justin Cavley of our Media, Arts, and Production program. And that music you love so much was arranged by our very own Michelle McQuaid-Dewhurst. Special thanks also to our guest, Amanda Miceli. If you haven't already, please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Keep being amazing.